Yo, what's going on, internet? My name is Ivory, and today I want to show you different ways to make sustained basses and how to process them and how to make them sound interesting. So, let's get started. I'm gonna use Serum for this one. So, the first example for this sustained bass is gonna be FM synthesis. So, I already have some post-processing here, OTT, distortion, saturation, camel crusher to glue everything together. So yeah, I like to start with basic shapes for this kind of stuff. I will show you maybe two different ways to do it with FM synthesis, one which is pretty simple and another one a bit more complex. So yeah, for the first one, we're gonna start with saw waves. Double saw, some FM from B, we already have something cool. So the concept behind a sustained bass, I mean, it's use, but you want the sound to be sustained. You don't really want any dynamics change in the sound. Yeah, you just want a constant noise. So you need to think about the ADSR at first. So the way your synth gonna look in terms of dynamics. And obviously for a sustained bass, you want to crank up the level and leave it all the way up or whatever, wherever you want. But you want it to be like constantly up there and not going back down. So that's the first thing. Once you have like the structure of the sound, I mean the basics of the sound, which is like this, what I just did here, you can start to add stuff that's gonna give some texture to the sound, eventually change the pitch, the semitones, the fine tuning, to make sure you're in key with your track. Yeah, so let's tweak some knobs here and see if we can make it a bit more interesting. Oh yeah, also thing. When you make sustained bass, you have many options. You can leave it, for example, like that. Nothing really crazy is happening here. But I personally like to have some movement in the sound. So I have the sustained sound, but inside that sustained sound, there's stuff moving, you know, stuff that gets automated by LFOs to make interesting sounds. So let's add some pitch modulation to the fine tuning of the sound of the oscillator B. Let's increase the rate. That's cool. Let's turn up the octave. This kind of bass is pretty common. You hear it in many songs. Why not pitching it up like extremely high? See, you can really go crazy with the pitch modulation. You just need to stay in key with your track, obviously. Also, let's try to change the shape of this LFO and make something like that instead, more like a machine gun type curve. And let's actually put it on the chorus pitch and decrease the amount to 2 semitones, which is gonna be enough. Oh, not enough. Maybe it's 5. Yeah, that's cool. Let's give this LFO some attack so you don't have that clicky transient at the beginning. Okay, that's cool. So let's add some filtering. Let's add some texture to the sound. Let's go in MISC. I like to use all pass all the time. Increase the resonance, turn down the cutoff, turn up the drive. This need to be EQ too. And let's give some hyperdimension to the sound. And now, let's say you're like satisfied of this sound. What you can do is add macros to the octave, for example, to add variation. At, let's say, the middle of your drop, you can turn this up, and then you have a variation in your sustain bass. Let's maybe change the FM too. Okay, that's cool. I kind of like this sense. I'm gonna go over another one now. This one was pretty simple, but as you can see, even with just 2 basic shapes and 1 filter, you can do some interesting stuff. You just need to think about, adding movement, again, adding texture to the sound. But yeah, it's pretty easy. Next example, what can we do? Again, some FM, but maybe with some more complex wavetables. Let's go to digital. I don't know what. This one maybe. Maybe, yeah, resumes. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna automate the coarse pitch of the oscillator I'm FMing from. So let me just do it real quick. Okay, that sounds cool. And I'm gonna use the same shape to control the cutoff of my filter. So my pitch bend and my cutoff gonna react the same way. And sometimes if you find the right spot, the sweet spot in the cutoff, it really makes something interesting. Maybe if we pitch it down instead. Yeah, that can work. Okay, let's actually do something like that. And let's automate the FM too. So when the LFO is down here, everything is a bit more like gritty because the FM is turned down. But then when it goes up, you have that higher pitch sound coming in because of the oscillator P, which is way higher in octaves and semitones, and also the cutoff moving. That can be interesting too. Maybe some pitch modulation here, like the one before. So I don't process, I mean, I haven't processed those basses that much, but if we had some more interesting filters on that, it can be really cool. Oh, shit! I wasn't expecting that sound, honestly. That's cool. Let's try to distort everything together. Okay, that's not too bad. But yeah, again, that's the same concept as the first bass I did, but with more complex wavetables. But that's literally the same process. So now I'm gonna show you a different way to do that, to do sustain basses, and this one is made with distortion, and there's no FM. So I'm gonna show you the easiest way.
Make your music stand out, get more views, and way more engagement. Bring your music to life. Get Music Visualizer in every format, even for social media. Get started today. The link is in the description.
Easiest way to do that. So the concept behind this one is to use a very low, a very low oscillator and a very high one combined together, and you add distortion. So the low end and the high end gonna be distorted together and gonna create a really interesting screech. And that's the kind of sound you could hear back in the days in 2010. You will know what I'm talking about. So leave one low, and you need to put another one very high. You know, that classic sustain thing, screech thing. Yeah, let's do some pitch and blop. So when you do that, I recommend you to play with the first oscillator octave. So sometimes it's cool to have it, you know, at the lowest fundamental you can, and then sometimes go even lower than that, so you will have a kind of wobbly effect to the sound. You can also do that with different waveforms. And obviously add more effects to it. That's something I really like to do. Oh, my bad. I'm not doing it at the right place. It's after the distortion. Here we go. And now what you can do is make this go longer and play with the pitch and do something like that. So you always have some movement, even though if it's a sustain, again, you have that pitch movement that will makes it sound like static in terms of dynamics, but not in terms of texture or pitch. You can also try to play with the oscillator level. Let's try the all passes instead. Oh, let's try to add some sub FM. See how this can sound. Oh. That can be interesting too. I kind of like that, but that's not what I was aiming for. So never mind. Okay, so that's cool. Another type of sustain bass. Now I can show you some stuff you can do on the post-processing in order to make those basses even more interesting. So I personally like to use frequency shifter. So let's get rid of the low end. And this one is my favorite. So let me just turn this down to 0. Yeah, so that's how it sounds without anything. Oh, let me actually turn off the LFO. And let's get rid of the pitch modulation. So what I like with frequency shifter and sustain bass is that you can easily make them sound very alien, very, I don't know, I don't even know what's the word for that, but it sounds weird. It sounds like very sci-fi stuff, you know. It sounds like, I don't know, you will see by yourself. You can easily have interesting texture by using frequency shifter. And what I really like with this one is that you have an integrated LFO, so you can add that wobble effect to the sound after the post-processing. Okay, so that's the frequency shifter thing. There's one plugin I use a lot to create an interesting stereo imaging on those basses and also add a lot of texture. It's called Crystallizer from Soundtoys, but I use it in parallel. So what is parallel processing? It is when you have like one signal and you make this signal go through, let's say, your bass group, but it also goes into another channel, and this channel goes into the bass group. So you have like one signal playing 2 times, but obviously the duplicate signal you just did, you gotta process it in a way that it doesn't sound like the first one. I mean, parallel processing is just like processing something 2 times a bit differently, but in my case, it's like processing 2 times a sound, but in the second channel, it's gonna sound like something completely different. And I'm gonna use this channel as a layering channel. So let's call this one sustain. And as you can see, this one goes directly to my pre-master, but I'm gonna also route it to this channel. I'm gonna call it sustain layer, and this channel I'm gonna route it to pre-master. So if I press play now, it plays in 2 channels. So I need to process this second channel, and I'm gonna use Crystallizer. I put the wet all the way up because I don't want any dry signal, because the dry signal is already in 1 channel, so I don't want it to play twice. So wet all the way up, and I usually start by turning everything down, declicking those 2 things. Oh. And from there, I start to work on my layer. So first of all, I'm gonna increase the pitch to maybe 12 cents. So it really depends of what I'm aiming for. For example, this dry signal is already like very high pitched. So I will tend to use Crystallizer to create some mid frequencies instead of adding more top frequencies. So I'm gonna turn this down 1 octave, 12 cents. See, if I turn it off, it adds a lot of stereo imaging, and it adds a lot of frequencies in the mid-range. So depending of your settings, the sound won't necessarily sounds right in key with your dry signal. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. If you really hear that it sounds dissonant and it's not pleasant, I mean, it's not cool to hear that in your mix, just tweak those settings and make sure that it sounds right. So since I don't even know what key I'm pressing right now, okay, it was D sharp, E. Let's try to tune it by here. This sounds good to me. So without. Okay, that's cool. And let's say that you're happy with your Crystallizer sound, but it's not in key and you can't figure out how to make it sound in key. Tune it with a frequency shifter. Okay. So that's our sustain bass with the layering and post-processing on. And now without. So see, sometimes you can make a really simple sound in Serum, but always think about the post-processing, because that's usually what's gonna make your sounds more interesting and more unique. Don't be afraid to add different effects. For example, I could process it a bit more, maybe add some beat crash. Oops. Let's also try to make a third routing here, and why not use pitch shifter and pitch it up a fifth. Or the opposite. So yeah, that's mostly how I do my sustained bass in FL Studio. I use different wavetables, I use different effects, but that's mostly